Knowledge is power. A person who has knowledge is equipped with power. Here, power does not mean the power of money or brute force. Rather, it implies the capacity to understand, to discriminate between what is right or wrong, and be able to make the correct choices. The illiterate person has limited choices of opportunity and advancement, for he lacks knowledge. Knowledge makes a man resourceful. When he is faced with difficult situation, he is able to tackle it better. His mind is able to come up with many ways to solve a problem. He is not slowed down by paucity of thoughts. He can even think up new ways of doing things. The world is moving faster each day. No one can afford to remain illiterate. Everyone has to update his or her knowledge to keep up with the time. Health is wealth. What is the use of having millions in the bank if we cannot enjoy good health? A healthy man can enjoy the benefits of his wealth, but a wealthy man, if he is not healthy, will always be afflicted with physical complaints. In fact, if you ever asked to choose between the two, always opt for a good health. Health can give wealth, but wealth does not ensure good health. Very often, the desperate search for wealth takes its toll on one's health. It deprives a man of the necessary physical exercise. It makes the person follow unhealthy food habits in the name of saving time. It thus brings along with it stress, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, ulcers, and diabetes. As a result, a person may have to spend the later part of his life in and out of hospitals and undergo expensive operations in order to keep alive. The end result can only be stressful and premature death. Finally, all the wealth is distributed among the heirs. Hence, to enjoy your wealth while you live, you must believe in the dictum, health is wealth. Unity is strength. Everyone knows the story of the bundle of sticks that could not be broken easily, but the single stick that could be broken easily. That is what is meant by unity is strength. 5 fingers make a hand. A hand makes a handshake. A handshake extends warmth and friendship and reaches out to the world. India is a land of diverse people, cultures, religions, languages, and geography. So long as we are united, we stay strong, and no power on earth can do us any harm. The moment we show signs of division, we will be vulnerable and enemies will try to take advantage of the situation. A team in which the individual members play only to project themselves cannot win a match. Only when each players play for the good of the team can the team win. Anything that we do should be done for the general good, not for the individual glory. Working for a common cause result in mutual empowerment. Manners maketh man. A man is judged by his outward behavior and attitude. If he appears pleasing to others, people say he has good manners. This would include the way he dresses, the politeness of his tone, and the social courtesies that he practices. For example, if he is respectful to his elders and to women, he will be well liked by society. If he is arrogant and proud, no one will like him. Other people will tend to avoid him whenever they can. He will be an unwelcome guest in any company. Indeed, your manner decides how people will react to you. Very often, your manners will also determine what opportunities you will be given in life to go ahead and progress. Bad mannered people will never be helped by anyone willingly. They will always be treated with disdain. Good manners come from having respect for others and an awareness of our limitations. If we value the other person's need for self-respect, we will in turn be respected. We should treat others as we would expect to be treated. This is the essence of good manners. We are a part of nature, not apart from nature. In his haste to acquire space from living and business, man very often forgets that he is a part of nature. He builds houses and factories and dams without any concern from nature. He cuts down trees mercilessly and destroys nature. He does not realize that by these actions he invites his own destructions because he thinks he is apart from the nature. On a class visit at Dhantali near Gandhinagar in Gujarat, we were fortunate to see a modern press constructed in harmony with nature. This press, within an area of 40 acres, is India's most up-to-date printing press. But within its environs, there are more than 200 trees, including fruit trees. Amazingly, there are also about 20 Gulangur monkeys, hundreds of squirrels and parrots, and nearly 100 peacocks. We were amazed to see monkeys sitting on the fences or sidewalks while workers went about their work. All the workers contribute towards the grain that is brought to feed these creatures. The air here is coolest and purest we have ever come across. No sign of pollution is seen anywhere. The place also had a large garden patch with the prettiest of flowers we have ever seen. Nature is the theme at this printing press. This printing press impressed upon us the truth that man can live being a part of nature and not necessarily apart from nature. God helps those who help themselves. There are some students who don't study all through the year, and then one day before the examination they go to the temple, make offerings and perform a puja and think that God will answer their prayers and give them a good result in the examination. Such student will find much to their dismay that God does not help Shrikars. He only helps those who help themselves. There is the story of a scientist who worked for years in order to find out the cause of malaria. He had performed hundreds of experiments and almost given up hope. Then he prayed and fell asleep. The next morning he woke up with a new idea in his mind. He tried it out, and lo and behold, he had found the cure for malaria. Thus, we see that God helps only those who help themselves. This is because God has given us all the talents, attributes, and the thinking power to achieve what we want. After being given all this, why should we again rely on God to achieve success? We should rely on the gift that God has given us to make progress in life rather than on God to do things for us. Perseverance is the key to success. Perseverance implies continued effort and determination to attain a goal. Both are necessary for success does not fall into one's lap. One has to work for it. Great scientists like Marie Curie and Edison continued with their experiments even though they faced many failures. Today, these names are well known and highly respected for their work. Everyone is not born with a silver spoon in the mouth. One has to trudge and crawl in order to reach the top. One has to be determined. Determination involves making decisions about the goals that one wishes to achieve and having the will to pursue them. Neither talent nor intelligence is of much help if there is no perseverance. Hence, perseverance is the key to success. As it has been so aptly said, where there is a will, there is a way. Perseverance involves persisting in one's task, having the patience to go on with it despite obstacles and failures, and spending enough time to get the task done. Then only will one achieve success. Neither a borrower nor a lender be. One of the characters in a play by Shakespeare gave the advice to his son who is about to travel abroad. Neither a borrower nor a lender be. In other words, one should neither borrow money from others nor should one lend money to others. Simply put, one should be careful in money matters. When you give money to someone, you are sure to spoil relationship with the person because the person in all likelihood is not going to repay you the amount. Neither should you borrow. If you don't have enough money, make do with what little you have rather than spoiling your good reputation by borrowing money from someone. The advice given by this proverb is full of practical wisdom. Money gets in the way of healthy relationships. So don't let money spoil relationships. Give your friends your time, your advice, your practical help in the times of crisis. But don't give them money and expect the same treatment in return. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. It is the hand of the mother that rocks the cradle. The proverb therefore implies that the very same mother who rocks the cradle to put her child to sleep also rules the world. How is this so? The word rule in this proverb does not necessarily mean to govern. It is used in a wider sense, that is, to influence people, to guide and direct them, and to lead them. It is the mother who molds the character of the child. The child then grows up to be an important personality, perhaps someone who decides the destinies of people or countries. What they have been taught on their mother's lap will then be the guiding force behind the decisions they make. No wonder that Abraham Lincoln said, "All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother. We have the example of Jijamata, who inspired Shivaji Maharaj as a child with stories of great heroes. It was this inspiration that led him to lead the battle for Hindavi Swarajya and to establish the Maratha Empire. You may not turn out to be a great or famous person, but what you have been taught by your mother during childhood will be the guiding force in all that you do during your lifetime. Charity begins at home. It is very easy to show the whole world that you are doing good deeds. Many people do this just to impress others. However, when it comes to treating the people who are near them with kindness, they are found sadly lacking. They treat their children, family members, servants, and people who are closely connected with them very badly. If you really want to be good to others, it should begin with your home and then spread to all walks of life. As we treat others who are close to us, so should we treat those who are not so close to us. Treating others well should be a habit with us. It should not be an attitude that we display only to gain name or fame. It should be the same when treating the smallest and the closest, as well as treating the greatest and the furthest. In one of the Shakespeare's plays, a character says, "The quality of mercy is divine." Indeed, to be able to forget the evil that others have done to you and to forgive them is divine. Jesus Christ, even on the cross during his last moment, was able to say this about the people who has put him to death. "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing." Lord Rama showed no rancor against his stepmother Kaikeyi for sending him into exile for 14 years so that her son Bharat could be the king. All of us are humans. We all have our weakness. No human being is perfect. So when someone wrongs us, why can't we forgive them? When someone hurts us, it is because that person is human and little understands the harm that he or she is causing. Forgiving that person brings out the godlike nature that lies in us. It is not very easy to do, but once we do it, we will feel an inner peace and a sense of moral rectitude. Empty vessels make the most noise. You will always find that a person with very little knowledge loves to jabber all the while and laugh and joke and make a lot of unnecessary noise. This is because the person doesn't really have any substantial matter in his head and so hides this fact with a lot of meaningless chatter. But the person of real substance looks around, observes, and when he or she speaks, it is to say something really meaningful. That is what is meant by this proverb. Hence, when we are conversing, we should only take a fair share of the conversation and not keep prattling on as if no one else is there. This will show that we respect other people's opinion and wish to hear them out too. It would also send out the message that we are not superficial people who only bore others with a lot of pompous talk. All that glitters is not gold. Or do not judge a book by its cover. Everything in life that appears to be attractive does not necessarily have great value. So, judging by appearance can be misleading. This same fact can be said in another way. A book cannot be judged by its cover. A book with a very attractive cover may not have readable material inside. On the other hand, a book with a very dull cover may be very interesting. This is true of almost everything in life. A show that is well advertised may be dull and boring, and a movie that has received very little publicity may be quite entertaining. So, we should not jump to conclusions about the merits or demerits of anything purely on the basis of the way it is packed. This is the age of advertisement. Makers of products try to show their products in the best light so that people will buy them. But this does not necessarily mean that the product is well worth the money. Even when we judge people, we should not do so by their looks. We must not get swayed by their flashy style or dashing ways. Gandhiji wore just a dhoti, but he is still held in a great reverence throughout the world. Abraham Lincoln was not endowed with good looks, but he is considered by far the greatest American president. Mother Teresa had a very simple appearance, but people all around the world remember and revere her. So, it is only right to say that all that glitters is not gold. Speech is silver, silence is golden. The Bible says that silence is made in heaven. Thus, silence is a priceless gift. Very often, in a conversation, some people speak non-stop and say hardly anything of value. Little do they realize that people, even in a company, need silence in order to evaluate what is going on in their minds. Many people imagine that whatever they say is very important and needs to be listened to. One valuable quality of communication is the ability to be a good listener. Listening is an art, but unfortunately, sometimes people just wait for the other persons to stop so that they can begin their own part, which they rehearse while pretending to listen. To be silent is to be sensitive to the other person's thoughts and needs and problems. If you wish your company to be valued by others, sometimes keep quiet, listen, and pay attention while others are speaking. By doing this, you will be more helpful than chattering 19 to dozen. There is a beautiful song which has this line: "You say it best when you say nothing at all." Nothing succeeds like success. Sweet is the taste of success. The more you get, the more you want. The more you want, the more you try. It is like setting in motion a self-propelling machine. It keeps on moving further and further and higher on its own stream. But where should it all begin? Of course, the success story must begin at the beginning. Success in early ventures raises our belief in ourselves. We begin to have confidence in ourselves, and that makes the all important difference. For a student, The first important success story begins with the SSC exam. If he or she proves to be a great success in it, there is every possibility that he or she will enjoy a long series of success in the years to come. So, it is essential to bring home the first success, putting in commensurate efforts. This success will bring in more success, for nothing succeeds like success. Work is worship. Everyone has to work in order to earn money. However, there are some who think of work only as a means to earn money and nothing more. As a result, they do not perform the task given to them by their employers with interest. They make excuses, point an accusing fingers at others, blame their tools, criticize their employers, complain about their colleagues, while they themselves work in the most inefficient way possible. We must remind such people that duty is divine and work is worship. Work is a dedication of one's labor to God. Work is the use of the inspiration given to us by God to create and carve and mend and shape. Work should be performed with sincerity, dedication, and perseverance. This shows respect for what we do and for the others who will benefit by our work. When we perform a task, however simple it may be, it should be done to the best of our ability. This shows not only our deep involvement in our actions but also an expressions of our skills. We must not forget that the first work ever done was by God, the work of creation. And look how beautiful his works are. Birds of a feather flock together. You must have observed that birds of the same kind move about in groups and even fly together in groups. In the same way, people who are similar in nature and have same hobbies, preferences or interests are always found together. They like to spend time discussing their experiences and common pursuits. This is what is meant by the proverb, birds of a feather flock together. People have a natural tendency to seek out like-minded people. It is human nature to do so. Sportsperson feel comfortable in the company of other sportsperson. An artist feels at home among other artists. This leads us to the conclusion that a person must be very careful about the friends he has, for he will be judged accordingly. If he is in the company of dishonest people, he too will be considered dishonest. Thus, we should always remember that we are known by the company we keep and ensure that our company is respectable. Make hay while the sun shines, or strike while the iron is hot. When life presents opportunities, we must seize them and not let them go. Everyone in their lifetime gets some chances to move ahead. Each big chance is a God sent, and we must seize it to move forward in life. Something or the other or some person makes it easy for us to get along in life. That is what the proverb means. We must strike while the iron is hot. In other words, we must make hay while the sun is shining. In any sport, the winner is the one who looks for opportunities to overcome his opponent by taking advantage of his weakness. It is also true that once we miss the opportunity, it may never come our way again. And then we will live all our life to regret the missed chance. We must put in our efforts but never lose out on the chance that comes our way. When an opportunity presents itself, we must seize it and use it to go further in life. Then only can we be successful. Travel broadens the mind. Travel is an important means of expanding your knowledge. It is definitely more effective than watching TV at home. You don't have to travel very far or incur too much expense. Even a picnic outing or an excursion or a trek refreshes the mind by providing new experiences. Travel stretches the imagination. It brings you in contact with new places and new people. Even great leaders like Gandhiji and Vivekanand travelled the length and breadth of India before they began their social campaign. Travel takes you out of your comfort zone. It teaches you initiative. It fills you with a sense of daring and adventure. Your personality blooms. You begin to understand the world and its people better. You become more tolerant, more observant, more humane. Traveling makes a person more mature and more responsible. A rolling stone gathers no moss. It is not good to keep on changing your place of residence or workplace or routine. Such a habit causes a lot of insecurity and instability. Besides, it takes time to get adjusted to new place or in a new job. A person who changes his home or job frequently loses much precious time this way. When you stay in one place for a long time, you become familiar with your surroundings and are able to go about your work with ease and precision. Also, people around know and recognize you, and so you get the help required when necessary. A person who keeps on changing his regular schedule frequently is known as rolling stone. Such a person cannot cultivate any true friendships or relationships. Frequent changes of jobs and homes also affects one's financial prospects negatively. If you stay in one place, keep a steady job, you will reap the benefits of continuity and stability. This is greatly preferable to changing locations or employment every now and then. Trees, nature's gift to man. Trees are Mother Nature's precious gift to man. Directly or indirectly, they provide him with all his basic necessities via air, water, food, clothing, and shelter. They also provide important raw material for our industries. Industries provide employment to people. The wood for furniture, housing, and ships comes from trees. Wood is also used for fuel and for making charcoal. Wood pulp is used to make paper and artificial yarn. Trees also give us products such as spices, rubber, turpentine, eucalyptus oil, gum, and medicinal products. No wonder forests are known as green gold. Trees provide shade to tired travelers and animals and shelter to innumerable birds and insects. Trees check strong currents of wind and water and thereby prevent soil erosion. Trees keep the air clean. Forests retain humidity and attract rains. It is for this reason that trees are known as rain catchers. They absorb harmful carbon dioxide from the air and fill the atmosphere with precious life-sustaining oxygen. In this way, they reduce air pollution. Therefore, trees are called the lungs of nature. We thus owe our very existence to trees. Practice makes perfect. You cannot become a world-class musician unless you take up your instrument and play on it daily for hours together. You cannot become a Tendulkar merely through inborn skill. You have to go to the nets every day for hours of practice. Merit holders in board examination do not achieve their marks by pure inspiration. They have studied throughout the year and revised and re-revised and made themselves perfect in whatever they have set out to study. It is only regular practice that makes one perfect. Eklavya became an expert archer only through practice. Practice is the talisman that makes a sterling performance possible. Practice is the lucky charm worn by superstar. It is practice alone that trains and disciplines the body and mind to raise the level of one's performance to the universal standards of satisfaction. Pollution, Earth's enemy number one. Pollution is the damage caused to the environment by harmful substances or waste. Pollution is our enemy number one today. Modern civilization and material progress have resulted in pollution everywhere. In the atmosphere, on land, in the seas, and in the river. Our air is polluted by smoke, gases, and chemicals emitted by vehicles and factories. This pollution poisons the air and harms the ozone layer of the earth that protects us from the radiation of the sun. If the ozone layer is destroyed, mankind will perish. Nuclear radiation also pollutes the air, causing terrible health hazards. Besides this, there is noise pollution in big cities caused by vehicles, machines, loudspeakers, and crackers. Tons of industrial and chemical waste are thoughtlessly dumped into our rivers, lakes, and seas, and they kill fish and other marine life. Unplanned growth of cities bring about more and more slums where dirt, disease, and death breed. We must take immediate and effective steps to fight pollution. Otherwise, our earth will turn into a wasteland. Science and modern inventions, a blessing or a curse. Science has invented marvelous machines to take the drudgery out of man's work. By doing much of his work and doing it fast, machines has provided man with a lot of leisure. Distance has been conquered. Modern means of transport and communication have made the world a global village. Internet has brought people of the world together and brought about a revolution in the field of information and communication. Man has already landed on the moon, and man-made satellites have made voyages through space. In the field of healthcare, education, and entertainment, science had made immense strides. Though we welcome the blessing of science, we have to consider the other side of the picture also. Factories have polluted the water and the atmosphere. They have caused noise pollution. Industrialization has led to slums. Medical inventions have, by reducing infant mortality and increasing longevity, led to the pollution explosion and consequent miseries. Again, science has put in our hands terrible weapons such as nuclear bombs, guided missiles, and the means of chemical and biological warfare. We are in the danger of destroying ourselves with the monstrous means. Rightly used, science can bring heaven on earth. Wrongly used, it can turn this earth into hell. Pride goes before a fall. Everyone knows the story about the deer who was proud of his beautiful horns and ashamed of his lean legs. However, when the deer was in danger, it was his leg that helped him run swiftly. His horns got entangled in the branches of a tree and led to his death. The very thing he was so proud of had brought about his fall. It is not right to be proud of what we possess. If we have skills, we should quietly use them for our progress and in the service of others. In the final reckoning, nothing in this world belongs to us. So, what makes us so proud? The tree in the forest is not proud of its product. Instead, it freely gives its products to the birds, the animals, the insects, and the man. It is only man who is vain, who loves to boast and show off his worldly possessions to others. Ultimately, however, he has to leave everything behind while his body is left to burn or decay. To be proud is to be foolish. To be humble is to be wise. Procrastination is the thief of time. It has been said, never put off for tomorrow what you can do today. Work does not disappear if we postpone it. It only accumulates. Finally, when we do tackle the work, we spend hours working under great strain and stress. Very often, we end up completing the work in a shoddy manner. It might also happen that the work may never ever get done just because we delayed doing it at the right time. The person who delays insuring his house will pay a heavy price when it is gutted by a sudden fire. Putting off the treatment of disease may make it worse and may even result in death. The student who goes on postponing studies will need to burn the midnight oil for last minute preparation before the examination. And even then, he or she may not have time enough to cover the entire portion. Time wasted is time lost forever. Hence, procrastination in this proverb is referred to as a thief of time. Let us be warned against the dangers of delayed actions. One good turn deserves another. When someone does you a good deed, you must never forget it. On the contrary, you must look out for the opportunity to do something good for that person or to someone else. Good must beget good. You must pay it forward. Then only will this world become a better place to live in. I remember once I was in the lift in my building when the lights went off. I was terrified. There was an elderly person in the lift with me. He calmed me down and told me not to worry. In a few minutes, the lift will restart. Then, when the lift began working, he accompanied me to the door of my flat. I was grateful for his comforting presence and thanked him. A few days later, I saw the same gentleman struggling with two huge bags of groceries. I immediately ran up to him and helped him. He thanked me for my help, but he had, in fact, earned my act of helpfulness because he had himself been helpful to me earlier. There is a beautiful poem about a man who helps an old woman across the street. The woman blesses him for helping her. At the end of the poem, the man expresses the fond hope that someday some young man like himself will help his mother when she is in trouble. Indeed, one should never hesitate to do good for others, for one good turn deserves another. Honesty is the best policy. Corruption has spread through India like an epidemic. At every twist and turn, you meet people who are willing to do anything dishonest in order to earn money. Dishonesty in the words and deeds is so common now that people have almost accepted it as a rule rather than an exception. An honest person is a bit of an oddity in present day India. Isn't that a rather sad state of affairs? Every religion tells us that we must be honest. No one likes dishonest people because they cannot be trusted. The truth is always so simple. Sometimes we are punished for being honest, but it is nothing compared to the pain and suffering that we cause to others due to our dishonesty. Gandhiji laid great emphasis on the need for truthfulness in words and deeds. His life throughout was a struggle to uphold the virtue of truth. A truthful person can speak and act with moral conviction. He commands respect and reverence in society. Such people are necessary in the world today. Industry is the mother of prosperity. There is a Sanskrit verse that says that animals do not enter the mouth of a sleeping lion on their own. The lion has to go out and hunt them. Otherwise, it will starve and finally die. The word industry in the given proverb refers to the quality of working hard regularly. So, what the proverb means is that hard work is the key to success. A farmer has to toil under extreme conditions in his field. Only then he can hope to harvest bumper crops. Laborers in a factory have to work efficiently in order to manufacture the goods that, when sold, will reap benefits for all. All prosperous nations have come up by the unfailing and dedicated efforts of their people. There is indeed no substitute for hard work, no shortcut to prosperity. No Tata or Birla or Ambani ever reached where they are by sitting in an easy chair relaxing. Sachin Tendulkar played well not by mere instinct. Behind his brilliant performance lay a lot of hard work and hours of practice sessions on the field. Nothing worthwhile in life can be attained without effort. Everything comes from continuous hard work. This is the concept that is the key to success and happiness. Action speaks louder than words. All of us are born preachers, but when it comes to practicing what we preach, we find excuses. Just telling someone what to do or how to behave is not enough. Behaving in the way that one wants others to behave has a more powerful effect. Telling others what to do and not doing oneself is absolute hypocrisy. Children quickly observe the gulf between the speech of adults and their actual behavior. They are influenced more by the action of the elders than by their words. They imitate their actions and inculcate their habits. Gandhiji impressed upon villagers the importance of cleanliness by taking a broom in his hand and sweeping the streets. His action had more effect than any speech he might have given. A father who smokes cannot scold his son when he finds him smoking. He should first give up smoking himself. In short, we should ourselves do what we want others to do. This is because actions speak louder than words. An ounce of example is worth much more than a ton of precept. Service to man is service to God. Benjamin Franklin, a great scientist, said, "Serving God is doing good to man. The noblest creation of God is man. Yet there are millions who suffer lives of utter misery and degradation. The best way to worship God would be to devote our life to the service of the poor and the destitute." Everyone recognizes the value of this kind of noble work and acknowledges its greatness. Politicians, statesmen, and military generals are often forgotten with the passing of time. But noble souls like Gandhiji and Mother Teresa have earned universal respect and remembered forever. Whenever Mother Teresa was asked, "Why do you do this work for lepers and the poor?" she would take the 5 fingers of the right hand of the person and touching each finger will say 5 words. "I do it for him." Rich people rarely lift a finger to help an orphan, a widow, or a poor deserving student. Don't they realize that God dwells in everyone? Whatever they have earned has come from society, so it naturally follows that they should give back to society what they have got from it. And the best way to do that would be by serving their fellow men. Prevention is better than cure. We sometimes handle a knife carelessly, cut our fingers, allow the cut to go septic, and when the pain is unbearable, consult a doctor. The doctor prescribes a prolonged and costly treatment. Wouldn't it have been better for us to have taken due precautions while using the knife? In fact, we can always protect ourselves against common ailments and diseases by restoring to proper precautionary preventive measures. Very often we are careless and do things thoughtlessly. We ignore signs that indicate the possibility of trouble. Finally, when the trouble occurs, we regret and neglect, but by then it is too late. The proverb, "Prevention is better than cure," advises us to take necessary steps to stop something unpleasant from happening. This proverb has application in the proper maintenance of machines, buildings, roads or bridges, healthcare, in the averting of natural calamities, in the prevention of epidemic outbreaks, and even at the political and national level. The proverb stresses the need for foresight and precaution in dealing with every situation in our lives in order to avoid facing misery and searching for expensive remedies later on. As you sow, so shall you reap. If a farmer desires to reap a harvest of wheat, he sows wheat. If he wants rice, he sows rice. What should we think of him if he planted wheat and expected to harvest rice? Or the other way round? The law of nature tells us that we must sow what we wish to reap. If we sow nothing, we shall reap nothing. Life is very similar. We have always to bear the consequences of our actions. If we perform good deeds, we shall be rewarded with good. If we perform bad deeds, we shall never enjoy peace of mind. Our lives will be wretched and miserable. Man can decide his future by his present deeds. If he sow the seed of vice, corruption, and sin, he reaps the harvest of misery and ruin. If he plants virtue, purity, and goodness, he plucks the golden fruit of prosperity and happiness. If we want to achieve good, we should do good, for as we sow, so shall we reap. Cleanliness is next to godliness. An unclean environment is an insult to the Creator. Everything that God has created is beautiful, and Mother Nature has in her the power and means to maintain the hygiene and sanitation of the earth. It is only man who makes the environment dirty. When we go to place of religious worship, don't we bath first? Don't we put on our best clothes? We must therefore remember that this world is our temple, and the first norm we must follow is that of personal hygiene. This involves keeping one's body, clothes, belongingness, and home clean. This prevents diseases and enhances the quality of life. Cleanliness must also extend towards the neighborhood and the environment in general. Every person must develop clean social and civic habits. It is wrong to spit on the road, urinate in public, or throw litter wherever one pleases. It is our moral duty to keep ourselves, our home, our environment, our nation, and the entire earth clean. That is what is meant by the proverb, cleanliness is next to godliness. Cut your coat according to your cloth. If you give a piece of cloth to a tailor to make a coat, the tailor will first measure the cloth and then decide what kind of coat has to be made out of it. He will not be able to make a coat that requires more material than the cloth provided. The same is the case with our income and expenditure. Our expenses should always be within the limits of our income. Otherwise, we will surely land in debt and difficulties. The proverb thus tells us not to spend more than what we earn, that is, to live within our means. This proverb applies not only to individuals but also to business establishment. Of course, a company may raise a loan to expand or diversify its business, but it must do so judiciously, otherwise it can even go bankrupt. Even the government of a country has to keep in mind its total resources while spending. If it does not do so and goes on borrowing recklessly from banks and foreign countries, it could result in severe economic problems for the country. Hence, the saying is of great practical value. Its application in life ensures happiness and contentment. Where there is a will, there is a way. The biographies of great men and women show how their strong will helped them overcome great difficulties and setbacks and help them find a way to achieve their goals. Students who resolve firmly to achieve their goals and work towards them sincerely and wholeheartedly are certain to achieve success. It is only the persistent efforts of some strong willed people that have turned dreams such as flying in the air, traveling in the space, and sending messages and pictures instantly into reality. Man's willpower, determination, and dedication finds out way to achieve the impossible. If we come across an obstacle and can't climb over it, we must walk around it. There is always a way. There is always a solution. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. An apple is valued because it has the most nutritional value amongst all fruits. A medium sized apple gives 80 calories and makes a good snack. It contains absolutely no fat. It also helps reduce the risk of some cancers. Because of its low sodium content, it reduces the risk of high blood pressure and heart disease. The apple has a substance that can reduce bad cholesterol and increase good cholesterol in our body. It is rich in vitamin A, which strengthens our vision. Apples also contains vitamin C that boosts the immune system in the body. They can even reduce the incidence of asthma. It is good to eat an apple after a meal. It is a natural toothbrush. Thus, this proverb reminds us of the role of a diet in warding off diseases and how it saves us the trouble of visiting the doctor. India, unity in diversity. India is a land of diverse physical features. Every possible geographical physical feature you can think of is present in India. The people of India have diverse physical features. They practice different religions, speak different languages, and follow different customs and traditions. They also differ in their dress and food habits. In spite of all these external differences, the people of India have a common feeling of Indianness. They are bound by a common cultural heritage and they share certain basic values. Hence, we use the phrase unity in diversity to describe the social fabric of India. This is to express the great truth that despite the many differences, the people of India are all united as Indians. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Arunachal Pradesh to Gujarat, they all have a feeling that they belong to one nation. That's it for today, students. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can subscribe my channel to learn more essays from Suman's Academy.